Hey everyone, I am Lily, and welcome to the next video I'm doing for my lists of top 10 cards for Commander Cube. And this week or episode, it's not a weekly series, but I limit myself to one a week because these videos don't do the best. Like, okay, from a trend of 2, but I like doing them, and I want to help promote Commander Cube because it's awesome. But today we're looking at Magic 2019 because we're slowly working backwards. And this series, if you haven't watched the previous 2 parts, is I'm looking through and talking about the cards I like most from each sets for Commander Cube. If you don't know, Commander Cube is a thing you put together to make a limited format. It's a cube, but at the end of it you build a commander deck. And there's a lot of ways you can build it. There's lots of variants on Commander Cube, but generally you put it together. Oftentimes they're larger than a normal draft, so the 2 most common, you'll have 60 or 100 cards and you'll have a commander, and then you draft it and then you play multiplayer in a game of commander. The things I'm looking for when putting together this list is, 1, just good gameplay, it creates new interesting spaces to play with, just important pieces for decks that just are kind of like keystone pieces. The cards, there's a lot of cards, a lot of honorable mentions that are fine cards, our first one here. One of the honorable mentions is Meteor Golem, which is a fine card. It's 7 mana, 3/3, when your battlefield to destroy non-land permanent and opponent controls. That's fine. It's not a bad card, and you'll probably have cards like this in your cube, but it isn't one you open and you're like, oh yes, I want to build a deck around that. And the series I want to be focusing on the cards that you're most exciting to open, because Commander, and to an extension Commander Cube, is very much kind of it's not strictly about pure gameplay. And as a cube builder, it's not strictly about pure gameplay. You're not always looking for the most powerful cards for a Commander Cube in a set. Although that cube might be true for your cube. You're looking for the ones that give the best moments and the best resonant gameplay and things like that. And as a cube designer, you gotta look at that. There might be a really good card, but it may not be a particularly fun card to play with or against or thing, and that reduces its playability. There's some other criteria that I'm sure I'm forgetting about. Some things I want to cards that fill weaknesses, especially of a color, especially for red and white, because those historically and also still now kind of suffer in Commander just from a power level perspective, and it's useful to help give them a leg up so they get a little bit higher for priority. So Meteor Golem is our first one. It's just other cards do this. This is the same as Scour from Existence or Universal Solvent. It is on a creature so you can recur it, but it just doesn't do enough. That it's one of those cards that you might actually just take early just to leave yourself open, but you're not excited to pick it up necessarily. Cleansing Nova is a fine wrath. Depending on the size of your cube, you're going to be running anywhere from a lot or all of the wraths you have, for your collection and whatnot. And honestly, this is one of the better wraths, I find. It's just its modal ability to be either a Wrath of God or a Purify is just nice and flexible, and yeah, but it isn't that special. It is just a wrath. So at number 10, we have Remorseful Cleric, which is 1 and a white for a 2/1 Spirit Cleric with flying, but you can sacrifice it to exile all cards from target players to the graveyard. Graveyard is a very common theme in cubes, and it can be really easy to remember to put enablers for a theme and whatnot, but it's also important to put in counters to those themes. And I feel Graveyard Hate, even in normal Commander, not just Commander Cube, Graveyard Hate is woefully ignored. But just having a low drop creature, which is also easy to reanimate for kind of the white weenie low to the ground strategies, it's very good. And it just does a lot. Well, it doesn't do a lot. It does mostly one thing, but in a way that's recurrable and provides a very important service that otherwise you don't really get access to a lot. Like, white has a little bit of graveyard hate, but it's one of those things where, actually, no, white has a lot of graveyard hate. Okay, I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's one of those things where it's kind of like wraths, where it's like like a wrath is a wrath is a wrath, but it's something that you need a lot of, and because commander cubes tend to be quite large, you want to make sure the saturation is higher than often what you think, and graveyard hate, I think, for that category is very easy to overlook. So that's my remorseful cleric is number 10 instead of just being an honorable mention, if that makes sense. Next up is I think the first planeswalker in the series, mostly because the Guilds of Ravnicons were not great, and all the ones from Commander 2018 were available as commanders. I forgot to mention at the beginning, I am not including legendary creatures or planeswalkers that can be commanders in this list, just because for a commander cube, every commander cube handles how legendary creatures work differently. Like, some you can just choose them at the end, others are within like the cube itself, like mine, and oftentimes also it's like the commanders are just easy. Legendary creatures are just easy choices for like, oh, that would be good in a commander cube. So I'm avoiding those. But Vivian Reed, she is a 5 mana, 5 loyalty planeswalker. Her +1 is you get to like, what's it called? It's like a commune effect, where you look at the top 4 cards, you reveal a creature or land, and then put it in your hand, and then put the rest on the bottom. And her -3 is, essentially it's a naturalized, but can also hit flying creatures. And her -8 is, you're rarely ultimating in Commander, unless you happen to have like a doubling season, but it just gives it's a generic creature buff emblem, that we're not going to care about. But the main thing here is that it's a 5 mana removal spell in a lot of ways, and it's one of those things where because it's also a removal spell on a stick, but like a very limited stick, it's actually pretty kind of easier to politic your way into like keeping her alive. She doesn't really pose an imminent threat. If anything else, she like keeps the board in check, so you might be able to like maneuver the ability to keep her more in line. Being able to kill flying creatures is very useful, because in Commander Cube, it does tend to be a lot more creature heavy. That said, also artifacts and enchantments are also super nice targets. Honestly, the role she fills in a cube is honestly as kind of like a naturalize effect, with added modes if you don't need a naturalize effect right then. And yeah, no, I quite like her. Also is like, she's a naturalize effect. She's sorcery speed though, she's kind of slow. She does hit, she also has a plummet on there. But it's like, all things considered, if you're just running her as a naturalize, even a flexible one, she's not the best. But when it comes to like, would you rather just like, there's like 4 mana naturalizes and things like that. It's like Return to Earth, and I think that's the one that's like 4 mana. But this one creates a lot more of kind of the idea of like, it creates those like moments of like, it's more fun to play Vivian Reed than it is to just play some random naturalized spell that you forget that you overcast. But like a Vivian Reed in the field, you remember that, and it creates that better experience. Next we got Apex of Power, which is a 7 red for sorcery. So 10 mana. I mean, this is Commander, so getting up to 10 mana is reasonable. And you can exile the top 7 cards to your library. Until end of turn, you may cast non-land cards that exile this way. If the spell was cast from your hand, add 10 mana of any one color. This is one of those cards which like you'll often look at and be like, okay, how can I break this? How can I like make it work for me? And really, like, that's one of those ones where it may not, like, on its raw power level, may not be huge, at least until you start doing things like doubling it and things like that, and recurring and fancy stuff like that. Like, you may not get those things, but it does give you the, what am I going to say? I've just lost my train of thought. But it's one of those ones you'll like open in a pack. Well, I guess you don't open it, but you get in a pack. You might see, and it's one of those cards where it's not quite a build around card. It's not like a Divine Infestation where like, oh, I want to build a token stack. But it's one of those cards that's like, this could be the key piece of something, and I kind of want to try to make it a key piece of something. And I like that. Also, its art is rad. Whereas one of those cards where I could see it oftentimes, like, this one is a risky one, where I could often see this, like, being a last pick. No one wants to, like, delve into the apex of Power Hole, or it just ends up in the sideboard always, and things like that. But I could also see it being, like, this kind of really sweet piece and create those really sweet plays when you are able to actually resolve an apex power and do weird stuff with it. Next up is Poison Tip Archer, which is 2 black and a green for a 2/3 with reach and death touch. And whenever another creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life. So this kind of like filling a role in kind of like any like aristocracy deck. But it doesn't gain life like Blood Artist and Falcon Noble, unfortunately. But that said, a 2/3 reach death touch also has this really important thing in multiplayer of having this very political edge. Like, it blocks almost anything, and no one wants to attack into this because you just lose your best creature that you're attacking with, and they send it at someone else, so it produces a lot of, like, unseen advantage over the course of a game. Especially since in Commander Cube, it's a lot more creature-focused than maybe normal Commander is, and it's a really good piece in a lot of different decks. Like, any Golgari deck is willing to run this, and it just goes that extra mile if you're doing things with kind of like aristocrat-y type shenanigans. Next up we have Tezzeret, Artifice Master, who's 3 blue for a 5 ability planeswalker. His +1 is Make a Thopter. His 0 is Draw a card. If you draw 3 or more control 3 or more artifacts, draw 2 cards instead. And his -9 is an emblem that is very powerful, but not that great. Like, you're not likely to get to it. You know what he's saying? Like, okay, it's a 5-mana planeswalker, but you get a 1/1 flyer, or you get to draw a card, or maybe draw 2 cards. Okay, what Lily, why is this on the list? This isn't that good in Commander. This isn't actually that great at all. And while true, like, its raw power level is not great. It's a planeswalker that can very much fly under the radar, where it's not super imposing. Like, you play this, like, you play like another, like, say, like a more impactful commander, like you play like an Theros Elspeth Sun's Champion. You're making 3 tokens every turn and doing weird things and wiping the board of all the big stuff. Like, that Elspeth is not going to live long. People are going to be like, okay, it paints a target on your back if you bring a planeswalker out. And that also has the problem of when someone is attacking your planeswalker, they're equally also not attacking other players. Tezzeret, though, does 2 very relevant things. It makes creatures, also artifacts if you are running an artifact deck, and it draws you cards. And those 2 things combined, where it's like no one wants to, like, unless they have like a plethora of creatures out, no one really wants to bother killing this thing until maybe you're close to your ultimate. Although most of the time you're probably just going to be drawing cards off this guy anyway. So he's very unassuming. He doesn't really threaten the board that much. And I think he's just a really good card draw engine from that perspective, while also having some benefits if you happen to need, like, a creature on the battlefield. So yeah. Next we have Patient Rebuilding, which actually fills a very similar niche to Tezzeret, which 3 blue for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, target opponent puts the top 3 cards of their library into their graveyard. Then you draw a card for each land card put into that graveyard this way. So, as much as I'd like to say that it's like, yes, you should enable mill all you can in your cube, it's not likely. Like, mill is really precarious in normal limited environments and cubes and stuff, because either you have to get it just right, because mill can just become like unbeatably devastating if you overpower it. It's one of the reasons Wizards is very cautious to make mill not a super viable strategy in Limited, because it's a strategy that not a lot of people, like, it doesn't have a lot of counterplay and things like that. But we're playing Commander Cube, where it's multiplayer. You're now dealing with 100 card decks, or 60 card decks, but even 60 card decks against 3 players mill is still not super viable. But you're mostly using this as a card draw engine. And this also has the benefit of, like, in Commander, you're usually running a higher land percentage than, say, Limited or even Standard. And so you're going to be drawing more cards off this. And it's not an aura or anything, so you get to choose which opponent you want each turn. And it's just a nice recurring card draw engine. Like, it's very similar to Tezzeret in that way, though, where it's just a 5-mana sorcery speed spell you put on the battlefield, and it draws you cards every turn. But they get removed different ways. Like, this can get removed by naturalize, the other one gets removed by attacking. This one is ahead of Tezzeret, though, because its art is better, and that art is rad. I am not biased at all, but I just love Magali's art. It's so good. I love her use of lighting and the reflections there, so, oh, very nice. Next we have Runic Armasaur, which is 1 green for a dinosaur. That's it. It's a dinosaur. We're good. No. It's a 2/5. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of a creature or a land that is not a mana ability, you may draw a card. Okay. In M15 Limited, you were like, okay, that ability was sometimes relevant, but most of the time it wasn't. It was actually most of the time pretty useless. But you really don't notice how many abilities of creatures and lands are not mana abilities. This move kind of like either shuts down the board or is kind of like, or just like enables you so much card draw. It's, I don't want to like say it's like the equivalent of like a green Ristic study, but it has a very similar effect like politically on the board where everyone like knows they should not use their activated abilities, but often someone will want to. And once one person does, everyone starts doing it, and then you just get all the card draw. And also, like I said with the early point of like early like aggression is very important in like Commander Cube. It's a 2-mana, it's a 3-mana 2/5, and that blocks stuff for quite a while. So, and also for if your cube has any sort of like Doran, like big butt strategy, that's a pretty big butt for a pretty reasonable cost. As well as just being like a really nice ability in Limited. Okay, now we're going up to like the really like exciting cards that are like open your list like, yes, I want to build a deck around this. Well, this first one isn't really building a deck around it, but it's so much fun. It's Chaos Wand. It's a 3-mana artifact. You may pay 4 and tap it to have target opponent exile cards from the top of their library until they exile an instant or sorcery card. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost, and then you put the rest on the bottom in order. So essentially you just start getting casting instants and sorceries from your opponent's deck. And in Commander, oftentimes the instant sorceries are going to be removal, wipes, or card draw. And, oh look, what color needs those 3 things? Red. And like I said, anything that helps overcome red and white's weaknesses is a plus. I mean, it cares about white for the card draw, but mostly for red. And obviously, you need to be careful about who you target. Like, maybe don't target, like, the mono green player with this. Or maybe you do, because probably their instant sorceries are a bit more high impact. But it also just creates those really fun plays where you activate this and you manage to hit, I don't know, okay, Enter the Infinite is probably not a great comparison because you're probably not ready to cast and Enter the Infinite. But like, say you hit for Apex of Power. Oh wait, no, that's also bad because you just exiled 7 cards and you don't get the mana. Okay, insert big flashing instant sorcery here. Ingaruk's Wake, and you get to kill all the creatures. And things like that, where it's just a really, it's a really neat ability that creates those really fun plays. Playing with your opponent's deck is always a fun thing to do, and Chaos Wand is just a great card for Commander, both in a outside cube setting and in a cube setting. I need to pick up some more for some of my other decks. Next we have Resplendent Angel. It's 1 white for 3/3 with flying. In the beginning of each end step, if you gain 5 or more life this turn, create a 4/4 angel token with flying and vigilance. And you pay 3 white to give it +2/+2 and have lifelink. This goes in the category of you want to open something and be like, I want to build a deck around this. Granted, this is just what's it called? Angelic Accord with on a creature, but it's also an angelic chord that kind of enables itself. And I know I'm probably biased because Life Gain is one of my favorite archetypes, and also Life Gain, there actually wasn't that many good that many great Life Gain cards in M19, payoffs I should say. I mean, there's some others, obviously things like Epicure Blood is not actually, Epicure's Blood is not bad with the right enablers, and Regal Bloodlord is fine with the right enablers, but neither of those really inspire you. Don't open those and be like, oh yes, my 1/1 bats will win the day. Resplendent Angel does do that, where you're like, okay, I want to build this Life Gain deck, and it's you just, I want to build around this, I want to have it go well. Okay, obviously I'm sorry, I want to just go deep on Life Gain. Obviously you want it to go well. Why wouldn't you open a card and be like, I don't want this draft to go well? That's dumb. Can you tell that I'm tired? But as I was saying, but it's one of those things where it's you open it and are inspired to build this deck, and that said, I still need to get one for my cube, but it's very expensive because it's played in standard. I'll see you whenever M19 rotates out. And finally, number 10, for when it comes to just build rounds, we have Sarkhan's Unsealing. It's a 4-mana enchantment that whenever you cast a creature spell of power 4, 5, or 6, it deals 4 damage to any target. Whenever you cast a creature spell of power 7 or greater, Sarkhan's Unsealing deals 4 damage to each opponent and each creature and planeswalker they control. So whenever you cast a 7-mana creature, it essentially kind of double pyroclasms the board, and everything else just turns into extra shock. So the ping, what's the word for a 4 damage shock? I don't know if there is a word for it, but yeah, no, Sarkhan's Unsealing. It's of all the cards in M19, it's the one that screams most kind of build around me, where you want to have high power creatures, which isn't hard in Birds Company things Commander, because you're playing high cost creatures. Even the 7-mana one is actually very reasonable to get. Red also kind of suffers on the creature removal front, because all the removal is damage based, and you don't really want to have these one-off damage based things because they're very much not very conditional. But having damage based removal on that's repeatable on a stick is very good, and especially when you don't need it, it can go face if you need to, and all these other things. And it just, Sarkhan's Unsealing just screams okay, this is the kind of deck I want to build. I want to build a big stompy red whatever deck, probably green, and we're just kind of defines an archetype and defines a direction your deck goes in. It also can really synergize if your commander is 7 or more, where this inspires you to look at specific commanders, and it's one of those cards you open and it really pushes your deck into that one archetype. And those are the cards I think work best in a cube like this, where you want to be having cards that kind of you want your players to be excited every step of the way. This is also a nice card because it's one of the ones that even if you don't pick one it, it's easy to get it past you or open in a later pack and still be hey, this is my big, this is very generically build around. It's not it works in a lot of decks where if your commander happens to be like 7 power or more, or even if you notice like you're like a big stompy tribe like dragons or something like that, where you get past this and you're like, ooh, this really fits well. And the fact that it's kind of good like throughout the draft in that situation, and generically good in any creature-based deck that isn't like tokens, it makes it just really good, and that's why it's at number 1. But that is it for M19. M19 was a little bit harder because core sets generally aren't as great for finding like good commander stuff, because it's usually a bit more like straightforward. It's not as complex, and yeah, sometimes like just efficient creatures aren't what wins commander games, and some of these creatures might be really solid, but otherwise like they don't really like go out of your way to want to play them in your commander cube. They don't inspire you. Like a very good creature, it won't get you only some of the way. You need to kind of like have these fancy effects and whatnot, because commander like naturally is a high complexity format. Actually, that'd be a good video to do, like things to look at for making like a low complexity commander cube. Not like low complexity, but like a lower complexity commander cube where it's like a little bit more straightforward to play. I'll actually have to think about that. Note to self. But yeah, let me know what you think. Like, do you disagree if I missed any like cards in M19? Although there's not that many good candidates. But do you disagree with like how, if anything, good for these rankings? Sorry I've been so scatterbrained. I'm still recovering from being a little bit sick, because I'm always sick these days, but what do you do? Well, I hope you all have a wonderful night, and I hope you have wonderful dreams. And may your story smile upon you.